It's The Journey with drug and alcohol attorney Mark G. Astor.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome back to another edition of The Journey Live. I'm super excited to have my good friend and therapist, Jessica Baum.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for allowing me to convince you to come on the show.
I'm happy to be here.
So I know that you came all the way from Palm Beach.
Actually, today I was in Wellington. On Mondays, I'm in Wellington. Shit, I can't say that because this is going live on
It's
Friday.
okay, don't worry. You can even say shit too if you want.
Yeah, I came all the way from West Palm. Yes.
It's all right. It's good. We're good. So we were complaining about the traffic here, right? I mean, it's just, you know, we went over to Mario's. I think it was early Saturday, like 6 o'clock over here. You couldn't even find a parking space. Nobody get into the restaurant. It was impossible.
Yeah, no, it is really busy. High season right now.
So anyway, so you and I met because we sort of have this common thing that we do, which is sort of working within the treatment industry. But you do something very different. You work with the families, right?
Oh, yeah, often with the families, sometimes with the addict or the identified patient and the families who are also the identified patient. But yes, both ends.
Okay, so where's your practice based?
So primarily I'm based out of Palm Beach, and I have someone who's working with me in Palm Beach, and I also have another kind of satellite, well, it's not a satellite office, a real office in Wellington, which I go to 1 to 2 times a week because I have equestrian clients out west, so I travel around.
So I know that you had told me when we chatted last night, I know when we've chatted before, that you, way back when, you were like, as my sister would say, a horsey person, because my niece was also a horsey person.
Yes.
So where are you originally from?
I'm from New York City, and that wasn't so easy on my parents, so I would ride out in Connecticut, and I came down to Florida because of horses, and I treat a lot of equestrians, and I'm passionate about that little area of the world, the equestrian population.
Okay, so but now you have your own practice.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into that? Because it's a very, especially working with families who are dealing with, you know, the disease of substance use disorders and mental health. I mean, you know, I know the stress that we get put under, and I see what it does to the family. So I mean, as a therapist, I mean, you're getting it from all angles.
I mean, I think that in the heart, I love to treat codependency. And I think when you're working in addiction, if you don't treat the family system, you know, you're not really treating the whole, you're not really helping the addict or everybody get better. I've seen so many times treatment centers just help the identified patient and not really work with the family system enough. And it really doesn't result in results, like positive results. So I kind of built a name for myself by building out family programs for treatment centers. So I ran a few and wrote a few family programs. So I started working a lot and passionately with families. And when I found out that you get the families more involved in a healthy way in treatment, the client's likely to stay longer in treatment, the client's likely to have more of an impact, you know, when they come down for the family program. Family members should be doing their own work in conjunction with the person that's in treatment. I am a strong believer of that, so I push hard for that.
Okay, so when did you come down from New York?
I came down from New York, I want to say like 12 or 13 years ago.
Okay, and so when did you say to yourself, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to, you know, help families with addiction, or I want to work with families. I want to be a therapist.
Oh, wow. So I was a professional horseback rider for a while, and I just realized, it's funny because I was like 24 or 23, and I realized I don't want to be doing this when I'm 35. I'm 36 now. So I just said, I want to start helping people, and I kind of ironically prayed about it, and I tried to find what would be the right thing for me, and I had suffered from anxiety and depression in the past. So originally I just wanted to help people struggling with mental illness that you couldn't see because I really believed it was there. And then when I went back to school, I just loved the spiritual piece in treating addiction, and I loved everything about it. So I went in primarily with just addiction, and then as I evolved, the relationship type stuff and family dynamic and family system stuff became more appealing to me. So I kind of changed in my practice, and it just kind of evolved that way.
So I have a question for you. You know, somebody on the front lines. Where do you think this all comes from? Because I mean, I'm not a clinician. I can only just sort of talk from my own personal experience, what we see, and my colleague Audrey does a lot of guardianship work. We see so much, so much mental illness. I mean, it's not unusual for us to get somebody who, in addition to a substance use disorder, has paranoia and delusions, and they think the FBI is watching, or someone's trying to kill them. I mean, and we see this a lot, a lot. Is that something you're seeing in your practice?
No. But I would say that you're seeing a lot of people who are in like crisis and in probably the height of their addiction and probably in some psychosis. And I don't usually take clients that are those type of clients need to go straight to treatment, and then I would see them after.
Got it.
So no, I don't see a ton of that extreme, but I do see a lot of mental health, just not when it's that extreme, they really need a higher level of care.
So do you have any idea where where did it all come from? Because, I mean, I don't know if it's like we just started talking about it more, or are we getting better at detecting it, or are we in a crisis? Because it doesn't seem like when I was, in my early 20s, back when Abraham Lincoln was the president, that was much of an issue, right? Or at least it wasn't talked about. Certainly wasn't considered a disease.
I mean, I come from the philosophy of early family trauma, so more of like a Pia Melody type approach. So I believe that early trauma that's developed in the household, and that doesn't have to be trauma like the way traditionally people think about it, but it can be like neglect or just messages, and we start to disconnect from ourselves and we don't get our needs met. And so as we get older, we'll medicate, and that can turn into addiction. So I'm a big believer that addiction usually starts at an early age of disconnect from within.
All right, so that brings up two things. I know we probably didn't talk about this yesterday because it was a Sunday, but so I'm going to ask you a couple of things, and maybe I'm on the spot, maybe I'm not. But so two things. First of all, one of the other things that we see a lot of is when we see substance use and mental health, and they typically go together. It's rare to see one on as a standalone. We typically see some history early on in the person's life when maybe they were 8, 10, 12, sometimes even a little bit younger, where a doctor prescribes some type of medication for ADD, ADHD, that type of stuff, and that seems to be overwhelming in the cases we see. And I don't know if you see that, and I've been told there's a connection. I've also been poo-pooed for even suggesting that, but because I'm not a doctor, but I'm just telling you what I see.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question you ask, because I have mixed feelings about it, and I'm not a doctor either. And I lean towards the side that if you don't medicate your kids, it's better. And ADHD, I feel like, is an umbrella for everything. And, we're prescribing a lot of medication in not teaching our kids, mindfulness. But then I don't have a kid who's running around with ADHD, so that's a hard kind of question for me to answer. But I do have one client that got prescribed benzodiazepines at a pretty early age and shouldn't have been. So, I would say more often than not, doctors are prescribing and creating a habit of taking something to medicate a mood, which whenever we try to medicate our mood or regulate our mood with something external, we can fall in the lines of dependency. Maybe not addiction, but definitely we become dependent. And the younger that we start kind of hardwiring with any kind of substance or medication that is mood altering, we run the risk of like kind of programming our brain to need it.
We good, Jay? You need to move the mic? Okay, all right. I know what he's looking at me. He wants to change something. There we go. I told you he just leaned in. Yeah, I mean, I think it was 2 weeks ago I had Dr. Ruth Swisser here. She's from my neck of the woods, as it were. And so I asked her that question, and she said that there's definitely a clinical link between the two. And she said basically, some of these medications are like speed, which is interesting because when I lived in California 5 or 6 years ago, and I was busy taking and failing the California bar exam, a couple of my I'm not kidding you. Sometimes the universe sends you a message. I had to take it 3 times to get the hint, and then my dad got sick, so I knew it was time to come home. But they were saying to me, when they knew I was studying for the bar, they said, well, why don't you take Adderall or some type of this medication? I said, well, why would I need a medication? They're like, if you take that medication, you'll be able to study twice as long, twice as hard, and everything that you learn, you won't forget it. And I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting stuff, right? I mean, if it's that powerful, imagine what it could do to a child who's only 10 or 12 years old, where their brain is still forming.
So it's interesting that you say that, because I right now have a client who was a benzodiazepine addict, heavy, and is studying for the bar, and his psychiatrist prescribed Adderall for him. And about 3 to 4 weeks into the prescribing the Adderall, the thinking and the behaviors changed. And I made him, I talked to him through it, but help him realize that it's not a good fit for him, the Adderall.
What was it doing?
He could focus and he could study more. And so there was some legitimacy to that, but then some of his thinking was changing and he started to wanting to hoard and doctor shop a little. So after processing with him, he's not taking the bar. And he's an accountant, so he's going to focus on that. And it was too much for him. And with his addictive nature and so much performance anxiety, we really thought that wasn't good. And I don't really blame the doctor for trying, but this client couldn't just stay on 20 milligrams. He started to think about 60 milligrams and on where else he could get it. And the addictive pattern started to come up to the surface pretty fast. So doesn't really matter what the drug. It's
frightening.
Yeah, no, it is frightening. Luckily, there was enough trust between him and I that I could really kind of confront him, and he agreed and was able to.
That's
stop.
pretty impressive because a lot of times we see sort of denial. Somebody who's dealing with issues. This isn't wrong with me.
Right.
And meanwhile, there's evidence of years and years of in history of abuse and Baker Acts and relapses and all kinds of crazy stuff, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine."
Right.
So
yeah.
I think that was maybe he wasn't at the stage where the drug had taken control yet.
Not yet, but it was heading fast in a couple of weeks in that direction. So
that's scary.
Yeah.
So one other thing you raised was the whole idea of sort of disconnection. I think you talked about that. You mentioned it. I saw a TED talk about a year ago. The guy was talking about what he believed was sort of one of the reasons, maybe the main reason for addiction, and he said that people who suffer from those issues, substance use, mental illness, I don't know if he said it was because, but one of the things that it was sort of the main focus was the fact that they were sort of disconnected from family and friends, and so he felt like that the drug was replacing that human connection.
Yeah, so I can hear that, and I definitely think that's a piece of it. But when I talk about disconnection, I'm talking about disconnection within. So there's like a disconnect in terms of feeling our feelings, regulating our feelings, being centered and aligned through our body. So we are like cut off and we start medicating, mostly because we can't feel everything, whether it's shame or guilt or sadness or grief. There can be a disconnect. And so we start kind of medicating from here up and we lose our center.
Okay, so help me understand that. When you say we lose our center, what does that mean?
Our heart connection, feeling all of our feelings become too overwhelming, so we start to seek something outside, external, to medicate and survive, really. It's a survival mechanism.
So is that like emotional overload, or when we lose empathy for other people? I mean...
I wouldn't say when we lose empathy for other people. It could be emotional. It could be emotional overload. It could be that unconsciously or consciously we don't want to feel pain, so we avoid pain by seeking things to help us feel better. Living in all our feelings can be overwhelming.
Okay.
So.
All right. So let's talk about like a typical family comes to you. Give us some idea as to the dynamics. Like, what's the sort of, I know it's hard to say the typical because every case is so
different.
Right, so different and so unique, but there's certain characteristics, right? I mean, I know when I see a Marchman Act case or Audra sees a guardianship case, I mean, there's just certain things that are consistent, and we know, and frankly, we need them to be consistent because the statute says you need to prove this, this, and this, and if we don't have that, we're not going to be able to move forward. So,
I mean, there's all different kinds of cases, and that's hard for me to say. I'll tell you a type of family member that I love helping is the anxious moms. I really love them, and most people are like, oh my God, no, stay away. But I have an affinity for them and a lot of deep compassion for them. And I seem to work well with helping people let go and kind of reconnect within and stop trying to control their loved one, which can be like the hardest thing for any family member and a mother. So that moms come to me a lot. And
so we must have that in common, because I sort of joke with people tongue in cheek. I say, they say, well, what do you do? And I say, well, we help moms and dads, whose children have substance use and mental health disorders. But I think what I really do is I spend a lot of time on the phone with crying mums.
Yeah.
Sometimes dads do, but I mean, it seems like it takes the bigger toll on the mother. I mean, Audra and I were in court this morning with a mum who came in from New York, and as soon as she started to talk and got emotional, and the deputy gave, put a box of tissues on the counsel's table, it sort of changed the dynamics. You could just tell that, the judge, who was a female judge, who was just amazing. The whole courtroom started to get, you could feel it. And I've spoken to so many crying mums.
Yeah. No, it's definitely hard, and they can be anxious and challenging, but dads are in a lot of pain too, but they don't typically express it as much.
We're men. We're supposed to be,
Yeah, right. But they do too. I just attract the really anxious. I think I'm an anxious person to begin with, and I think I can empathize a lot with people who struggle with being anxious. So I attract a lot of that in my practice.
Something else that we see here, and I want maybe you could talk about it, is we see so at least with the work that we do, it really is, it's a family decision. It's very rarely, whether the parents are together or apart, and we get that too, it's very rarely like one parent calls up and says, do it, right? It's a family decision. I've got a case right now, it's actually going to hear, and tomorrow we've got the dad, stepmom, and mum. They're all involved. And really, it's a family decision. They all have to be on the same page, which doesn't work. But sometimes what happens is one parent says yes, and one parent says no. One parent says, I'm cutting him or her off. No more money, no more this. If they're homeless, they're homeless. And the other parent says, no, I don't want little Johnny or little Jane out in the street. Even if they're even if they're doing it in the house, at least I know where they are. And God forbid something happens, we can call 911. And so, just as a non-clinician, it's really hard sometimes because really what I'm trying to do is, it's not really, for me, it's not really a choice of tough love or enabling. It's, are we going to get them into treatment or are we not?
Right.
That's the goal, right? I got to get everybody on the same page thinking, we got to get them to treatment, because if you don't, neither one of your options are going to work for us, because either they're going to be in prison or they're going to be dead. That's it. Treatment, prison, or death. That's really the options. It's, in my experience, these diseases don't get worse, don't get better with time, they get worse.
Right.
So maybe you can help me, to understand the dynamics and maybe how I can do a better job dealing with it, because it's not easy and it's stressful for us. It's exhausting, and we care. So it's probably why I don't sleep.
So, two things. One thing, I think that expressing to the family up front that they have to all be on the same page in terms of boundaries, and it's really important to facilitate from a place where everyone's on the same page. Now, when someone isn't on the same page, and they're more of the enabler, or they can't hold the boundaries as much, kind of working with them independently to see. I think that people who struggle with setting those boundaries or sending their son to treatment, they're too empathetic in that moment, and they don't know. I often tell people, if your son or daughter suffers, that's a catalyst for change. And if you don't allow them to suffer, they're not going to change. So you're not dealing with your own anxiety when you keep saving them or keep helping them. And this is really about your anxiety, and this isn't really about them. And we're not allowing them to change if we go in and rescue them. So them suffering without your help is what's going to get them to a different outcome. So kind of reminding them about that, and kind of reframing it and rephrasing it to help them see that the catalyst for change is letting them watch their loved one being uncomfortable. And really what they're struggling with is that they don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's amazing. We'll get the parents, they're going through their own personal hell, and the child, I know you sort of use that word generically because I'm 52 and my mom still thinks I'm a little boy. And maybe in some ways I probably am, but that's a whole other conversation. Mom and dad are, they're not sleeping, they're arguing, they can't function at work. And then, little Johnny or little Jane, they're fine. They're like, yeah, no problem. I'm living my own life. I don't need any help. For them, their use is status quo. But meanwhile, the rest of the family is going to hell in a handbasket.
I know this sounds weird. It's some of the couples that I work with that are going through stuff like this, I have them join in the pain. So they're both in a lot of pain, and it's coming out sideways on each other. So getting them both on the same page and starting to hold space with each other around the pain and realizing that they're both in it kind of unifies them a little bit more, rather than in their own separate survival mode, probably arguing about how it could be done or should be done, and not really just recognizing the underlying pain that they're both sharing.
Right. So talk about, Does it help me understand a little bit how things work with the practice? Oh, the wobbly table. Is it a matter of sitting down the family, maybe it's siblings as well, and trying to work through some of the issues that are going on while the loved one is dealing with the disease?
I mean, it kind of depends on how and at what stage the family comes to me. So if I was a family therapist for a really great treatment center, Next Chapter here in Delray.
No, well, they run a great program.
An amazing program. And actually their philosophy is one that I really like. So while the client is in treatment, you're doing really deep work with the family, and you're trying to get the family to do their own family of origin issue, do a lot of their own work, so that when the client comes out, they've shifted too. That's ideal. That doesn't always happen, and I wish more treatment centers would focus. I know there's a few that do, on really having, I would do individual sessions with each family member as the client went through treatment at the same time, and everybody's shifting at the same time. What happens is that client goes to treatment and the family doesn't do a ton of work, and then the client leaves treatment, and then there's more work to be done. And so ideally it would be nice if everyone got treatment at the same time.
Yeah, so I always tell families the difference between getting somebody into recovery and getting them to stay in recovery. And from everything I've seen and know, the folks, the individuals that I know, people that I call friends who are work in our industry, even ones that have been in recovery for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, they all seem to consistently work at it. They go to meetings on a pretty regular basis. If they feel like there's some anxiety in their life which might cause them to relapse, they go and talk to somebody about it. And that just seems like the aftercare, just seems like such a huge piece. It really does.
And I would say trauma. So a lot of people get clean and sober and they don't always address the trauma, and the trauma will show itself somewhere else down, and maybe they're not ready to, or maybe they are, but maybe early recovery and not inpatient, they're not ready to look at trauma. But when it does show up, having the resources or the people to turn to when you're in a trigger or your trauma is kind of showing up. I think that's important.
So do you think the family needs to keep working on stuff? Because obviously
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I view the family as the patient. So I don't see the patient as the problem. I see the whole system needing, and so that's why I'm like, identified patients. That's what the family is identifying as the patient. But I really kind of look at a system and I can see a lot of patients. I know they might not like to hear that, but they have to keep working really hard at it.
Okay. So what about your work with the person who's in recovery? So maybe they've come from, they've come from a 9-day program, right? They did 30 days of residential, they did PHP, IOP. So now they're out outside of the four walls of the treatment center, so to speak. So now they come to work with you. Tell me about how that might look, what it involves.
Yeah, and that's great. So if I get a client that's been through the program and has a really solid foundation, then I can start working really on deeper trauma if they're in a great place. So I use a lot of Post Induction Therapy or different trauma models to kind of dig a little bit deeper. Again, I do a great assessment of whether or not they're ready for it or not, because you don't want to dig too deep on an outpatient basis too early in recovery. But when I can, I work mostly on trauma. All
right, so let's talk about those two modalities, because I know that they're on your website. And by the way, we're going to give out all your information afterwards when we get to the end.
Okay.
But it's a very, very, I told you, I thought it was a very warm and welcoming website.
Thank you.
It really is. It's sort of shows the soft nature of the gentle side of what you do, what your team does. So let's talk about the modalities, because I know there's EMDR, right? And what was the other one?
Post Induction Therapy.
PAT.
Yeah,
okay,
that's my favorite.
So tell us a little bit about those two modalities.
They're both similar. So isolating trauma in early childhood. EMDR uses like a system through eye movement, and post-induction kind of empowers you as you're an adult to go back to childhood and kind of change your traumatic incidences into something different, empower you in those moments, validate you, maybe share what you couldn't share when you were 12, give your 12-year-old a voice, et cetera, et cetera. So those are pretty awesome tools to have.
Okay. So if somebody comes to you now, do those modalities work with the family, with the individual, both?
Yeah, Yes, if I do family counseling individually, I do trauma work. I mean, it's always trauma work. And when I mean trauma work, I go back to the core of what's driving the behavior. So it might not seem like trauma. I think people use trauma, it's a very big, vague word, but I'm talking about like early wounding. So early wounding still shows up in how we deal with our son or our daughter, so I go back to that when I'm working with the family system.
It's amazing. Somebody pointed something out to me. So they say that like I was watching like the Discovery Channel, and there's like, you see like the zebras at the water, and then all of a sudden a big crocodile comes out, tries to eat one of them, right? Mm-hmm. And they were saying that when that happens, it's a traumatic event for the animal, but once that happens and it's over, they never think about it again. There's no, I don't know if the word is emotional scarring, but it's an event, it happens, and it's over. They never think about it again. But as human beings, it's like whatever, who is it, Maya Angelou said, people don't remember you for what you said, but how you made them feel. When we feel something, whether it's good or bad, traumatic, whatever it is, it seems like it just stays with us. It doesn't really dissipate. I mean, I know, I'll give you an example. So I lost my dad. So I think I told you, right, yesterday would have been my father's 84th birthday. And he died January the 15th of 2017. So it's almost hard to believe it's been 2 years and 2 months.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So, but there are times where I feel just a massive loss.
Yeah, no, that's really hard. I think anniversaries are hard. I think, we store things in our limbic system, and we are not always, trauma doesn't get stored in like a linear fashion. Like there's no time or space understanding in that part of our brain. So when something we feel today reminds us of something we felt before,
it triggers things, right?
We link them. Yeah. So unless you go back and kind of resolve the old, you're going to kind of link it to whatever shows up in the present. So it's not linear. It's kind of a feeling based, attached.
I think that's interesting stuff, right?
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. Yeah.
So they say that time heals all wounds. Do you think that's true?
To some degree, yes. I think time, and I think processing things, and yeah, time definitely helps. I don't know. I think people can heal faster if they're brave and they can feel more, and I think people avoid like the feelings around wounds, and so they don't heal as fast.
It's interesting we talked about it when we had lunch. Was that last year already? Oh my God. That went quick.
Yes.
I had a very short marriage back in my early 30s, and as glad as I was to be divorced, because it clearly wasn't a right situation for her or me. Two to make it, two to break it, right? So I had I had started to see somebody, and she said to me, "I'm just warning you right now that there's a certain cycle of emotions that you're going to feel." And I just remember when I got divorced, I was like, "Oh, this is great. I'm finally single. Thank God," right? Mm-hmm. And the day after the divorce became final, I went on a cruise ship. I went on a cruise on my own. I think I'm gonna have a good time, and I'm not kidding you. There were the first 3 days of the cruise, I couldn't physically get out of bed. I was so distraught over the whole thing. I honestly couldn't believe it, but I knew it was coming. And my friend had said to me, "Look, there's going to be a period of time where you're just so devastated over this, but it will pass, and you'll sort of circle through things." And by the end of the week, I actually felt a lot better. But it took me so long to get over it. And I think one of the things that helped was knowing, like, understanding how it all worked. Like, I knew it was coming. I was like, all right, there's some point where I'm going to feel terrible, but it will pass.
Right. So yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think anytime you end a relationship, thank God people go through the phases at different times, and some people are relieved at first and then the grief comes later, but it always kind of comes. Some people go through the grief in the moment, and sometimes we can't grieve in the moment because we're in survival mode and we got to get through the divorce. So once we get through the divorce and our defenses are down, then the feelings have the space to come up. And everybody's different in terms of, we don't know when our psyche is going to allow that to come up. But traditionally, it is the grief process, and one that might feel relief at first will probably feel loss and sadness at some point, and anger and resentment, and the 5 stages of grief usually till they get to a point of acceptance. Sounds like you got through it when you could, which was when the divorce was over.
Right. So I want to talk to you about one other thing that we sort of
Sure.
talked about last night, was that, and maybe this is sort of for us, in the industry that we work in. I mean, I know that I give out a lot of energy, so by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I give my energy to the clients and people that I work with, and just lately, especially the last couple of months, where I've routinely worked 6 days, 7 days. I've been feeling almost, I don't know what the word is, almost physically and emotionally drained. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it is I try to make myself available, right? I mean, I took a call on Saturday night at midnight. Mm-hmm. After you and I spoke last night at 8 o'clock, I had a call from somebody. Mm-hmm. And I said, and I think you and I talked about maybe I can't always be available because it's exhausting. I mean, I came to work this morning, I'll be honest, I was in a really pissy mood.
Yeah.
But then I went to court and I sat next to this mother who was, crying in front of the judge about how, about what's going on with her daughter. And I got out of court and I was like, wow, maybe compared to what this mother's been through for years and years and years, my, emotional thing is very, very small.
Well, I would actually say that it's not that small. And, there's a little level of self-abandonment in you giving so much to others and maybe not taking care of yourself that much. And I struggled with this for a long time and still sometimes do because I have clients that go through crisis moments. But boundaries in my 8 years of private practice have just evolved. And I won't really overextend myself too much. And it just sounds like you really put your heart out there, which is wonderful, but maybe you'll build resentment or burnout if you're not careful.
I've been feeling that lately.
Yeah, I can feel it. Even in this conversation, something coming up for you. And the truth is, you can stay where you are.
I told you I got to come and see you.
You can stay still and they come to you. And you can have boundaries and they still need you. So just let go. You let go that you don't have to be their life savior every second, that they have to build those resources inside and they don't need to be that dependent on you. You're their lawyer, right? And so you need to have a life too.
I mean, I'm in the gym every morning. I teach my Krav Maga class 3 times a week, which is really the only thing I do that shuts me down. Because even in the morning in the gym, I'm listening to some personal growth or something to do with business, and the phone's ringing. So I really don't get a lot of I only get really 2 or 3 hours during the week where I shut down because I know at night I don't shut down. I mean, I toss and turn all night.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I used to be like that. So I used to work nights and weekends and people are like, how'd you get so successful? I mean, I worked a lot. And then eventually I just was like, wow, I'm going to burn out. And maybe I did at some point where I just needed to shift and set some real firm boundaries around self-care. And I work really hard at those. I take vacations now. I'm going away for 2 weeks where I won't have a cell phone attached to me. I take more breaks than I used to. I used to see 8 clients a day. Now I see 6. Sometimes when a client is in crisis, I do pick up the phone. But my clients really know not to call me unless they need to. And if it's a crisis, they're going to the hospital or whatever. But I'm happy to be there for them. And they really only use that if they use it cautiously. And, they're very respectful of my time. And I kind of lay that out. I say to them, call me if you need me, but, only if it's appropriate. I put it out there. But when I first started my practice, I was kind of like a codependent. I was on call a lot and showing up a lot and too much. It was too much. So I had to dial it back and learn what works for me. And everybody's different. I probably give more than other people. People would probably say I give too much. So finding what works for you and making sure that you keep balance is really important. Just recently, my caseload, I don't know if my caseload went up or I had a couple crises happen at the same time where I start to feel a little overwhelmed. And some of that you can't avoid because, life happens and you make a commitment to a client and you're there. So watching what you commit to. So now I'm less likely to commit to a new client if I know I have kind of a high crisis caseload. So I won't commit that easily. And I brought on another therapist, which is also something you can think of. But I brought on a great therapist.
We've been talking about bringing in a paralegal to do some of the, especially on the guardianship stuff, which is very labor intensive.
And even to just vent and be like, hey, can you help me out with this client? Or what do you think about this? Or I need you to help me with this. Or if a new client referral comes in and my caseload is busy, I give it to her. We do an assessment and see who it's better for. But to have that person it's really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be better at setting boundaries. I mean, I've noticed that my definition of an emergency and a client's definition of an emergency on, a Saturday night at 9 o'clock are completely different, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, my definition of an emergency is somebody's life is at risk, whereas a client's, definition of emergency might be, why did I get this email from, so-and-so, or why did this happen, and I've had those calls, 9:30 on a Saturday night, one after the other, same client calling me, wanting to know, why did my loved one get a letter from the court? I'm like, it's 9:30 on a Saturday night. I mean, if I don't answer the phone, they call back, and I'm like, and I got to the point, it's interesting, after we spoke last night, I said, I'm going to have to set more boundaries because, while I appreciate they're in crisis, on a Saturday night at midnight, there's very little I can do. The courts are closed, and I've tried to do, one Friday night, I was here at 11 o'clock with Audra trying to file something and got into a bit of a brouhaha with the chief judge because I wanted the duty judge to sign a pickup order for me, and the courts were closed.
Right.
And I was like, well, I've got somebody in the emergency room and I need a court order. And, I complained to the chief judge that the duty judge didn't want to answer the phone at, 11 o'clock on a Friday night when I needed my pickup order.
Right. Well, it sounds like you were being driven by the client, and, the nature of your work is different than the nature of mine. I mean, you're more in crisis with your clients than I am. Sometimes my clients are in crisis, but you literally get them before, like, the worst of the worst. So it's not fair to compare so much, but I would have a work phone and maybe a regular phone, or I would find ways, a work phone and a private phone, and put the work phone away. I mean, for the weekend, and tell your clients up front, Saturday and Sunday, you need at least one day where you're like off
Shut
the grid.
down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
At least one day, or nights. I mean, it sounds like you're on 24/7, and that's really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I have woken up, say at 6 o'clock on a Saturday during the week, to go to the gym and work out, and there'll be a call from 3 o'clock in the morning, like multiple calls from the same number.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what did you think I was going to do at 3 o'clock in the morning? I mean, what could I do, So.
And maybe change the way you look at it. Like, I have a lot of compassion for the mom or dad that called you at 3 o'clock in the morning, but if you put your phone on silent and you kind of just shift it and be like, they can call me 50 times in the world, I'm only available from this time to this time, and they're going to have to deal with their anxiety. Just so it sounds like you're internalizing this as what am I supposed to pick up the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning? Is that what they expect me to do? No. Don't pick up the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they can call all night if they want, So I wouldn't get too upset. I mean, it's hard.
I care about what we do, it's important to us. So.
Yes, but their crisis cannot be your crisis because you will burn out so fast.
You're right.
Yeah, and you do care, and you're really good at your job, nice. And, but you have a really great reputation, and I think that you could still take a day off or a couple nights off, and your clients, they would survive. Yeah. They're not going anywhere.
I love it. All right, so I have a question. So how do folks get a hold of you? How do they find you?
So I have a website, and my phone number on my website is right now still my cell phone. So that is my phone number, and I have an Instagram page, Jessica Baum LMHC, that I'm building up right now. And how else could they find me?
Give us what's the web address and the phone number so they can find you?
So it's 561-284-9182. That's my cell. And my web address is...
do you want me to find it?
I think it's www.relationshipspb, like palmbeach.com. And my Instagram is Jessica Baum LMHC. And I know there's another major... Oh, and then there's a Relationship Institute of Palm Beach, which is my Facebook page, which I am actually going to be going live on a lot. So I'm being...
Are you going to do a Facebook Live show?
I'm going to go Facebook Live because I wrote 2 courses.
That's right. You told me you're writing a book.
Yeah, I wrote a book. I have some courses. I'm trying to help more people differently because I don't want to burn out, and I want to reach more people who can't afford me and want to maybe try different avenues to get help. So I wrote a book.
When's the book coming out?
So I just recently found an agent, and I don't know because I haven't gotten a publisher.
What's it going to be about?
So it's a relationship book, and it talks about energy and attachment styles, and it's for people with more of an anxious type of attachment style to kind of get back into their center. It's for codependents, love addicts, to help really understand how they recreate some of the same trauma over and over again and kind of shift that a little bit. It's a cool book. I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to reading that.
Yeah.
You have to do the
I can send
audiobook.
you the manuscript right now. I mean, the manuscript is finished, but
Well, I'm going to wait till it comes out in audiobook. I'm much better at listening than I'm reading. I can
you
never
might
sit
have
down
to
long
wait
enough.
some time. Anybody who knows publishing, it takes time. But yes, happy to send you many copies.
I
if
love
you
it.
want. Yeah.
That's great. That's exciting. When will it be available?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So, you got to get a publishing deal, which I'm working on, and then they release it when they want to.
I love it. All right. So, folks, hope you enjoyed the show.
Yes.
And if you have issues, with the family, with your loved ones who are in recovery or dealing with issues of addiction and mental illness, I mean, they should reach out to you, Jessica. They really should. I mean, I feel better just now that I feel like I just came out of a therapy session.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
great.
you. Yeah, definitely reach out. I'll see what I can do. And even if I can't do something, I'm happy to offer resources and advice and steer people in the right direction and share what treatment centers I support and help people get to the right spot. So.
I love it. So the show is on Facebook Live on the Drug and Alcohol Attorneys Facebook page. Normally gets shared to the Mark G. Astor personal page. It's on the Drug and Alcohol Attorneys website, YouTube. If you need more information about what we do, you can email me at mark@drugandalcoholattorneys.com. You can call us 561-419-6095. Although now I've had a therapy session with Jessica, don't call me on Saturday night at midnight. 'Cause
Yeah, give them a break.
I'm not answering the telephone from here on out at that time. Jessica, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
in.
thank
This
you
was
for having
great.
me.
Thank you.
It's
This
been
was
great.
So,
Thank you.
Until next week, folks. Oh, one other thing. Question of the week. We need a question of the week. So, yes, post comments, questions, and I'll review them, and we'll respond. Normally with a video question, right? Video answer. All right. Jay's nodding his head. All right, folks. Thank you very much.